All right, all you freedom loving boys and girls, welcome to Mission Critical Podcast. This is episode 18.
Yep.
Yeah,
18.
this is episode 18. Woo! All right.
Ripping and tearing.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm Mark and that's Redbeard. We're your hosts. We've got a special guest here tonight, and Redbeard and I were talking. So we did a live stream class earlier this week. We got another one going on next Tuesday. A lot of our comments, or correction, a lot of our topics have been, really serious because we live in serious times and there's serious shit going on. So we decided we needed to do something a little bit more fun, but a topic that's of great interest to us and to our special guest, who we will introduce in a second. And you see the title of this video. It's called UFOs, Fact, Fiction, or False Flag. Right? And you can already see where we're going to go with this. So without further ado, I'm one of your hosts, Mark. Redbeard, do you have any little intro hello things to say?
Nope. I'm pretty sure if you want to know, you can always defer back to the old videos if you haven't seen us. Otherwise, most of you that return know who I am. So,
although if you didn't watch the live stream, you're saying to yourself, that's not Redbeard. Redbeard has a beard. That's a man with a goatee. He did shave it off in that last week here. So without further ado, let's bring it over to Valley Reb, our special. He's been on before, but we got a special guest here tonight. He isn't going to be able to be with us very long. What do you think, Mark? About 30 minutes you got?
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, we're going to let Mark, a.k.a. Valley Reb, introduce himself, and he's going to start off the conversation. UFOs.
Yeah.
Fact, fiction, or false flag? Take it away, Valley Reb.
Well, when it comes to UFOs, I'm kind of leaning on the side of the fence that says, yeah, they do exist, from the standpoint that they're unidentified. I mean, I don't know if they're from another planet, but certainly not anything that is of common knowledge for sure. And my point of reference is a personal experience that I had back in 1986. In a little town called Strasburg, Virginia. And I'll share this experience with you, and then we can chat about it. But it was about 11 o'clock at night, and a friend of mine and I were kind of just laying on the sidewalk talking about girls and stuff at school. You know what you do, and you're just kind of chit-chatting. And then all of a sudden, we're looking up at the stars, right? And all of a sudden, this triangular type object, dark, it was completely dark, blotted out the stars, started coming down over the town that we were in. And it was actually kind of over top of where we were. And no, we weren't smoking anything or drinking anything. But as it came down and got closer, we could see that on each end of each point of the triangle, it had a small light. So that's how we knew it was triangular in shape, but it didn't make any noise. It just hovered about 300 feet above where we were laying on the sidewalk, and we're looking at this, and of course you've got the sound of the town and everything around you, but this device, whatever it was, wasn't making a sound. It was dead quiet. And it just hovered there for a bit. And then it slowly started to move off to the east of us towards this mountain that's by our town. And as it started to move off, we jumped in our car. First, we called the police. We said, hey, there's something over the town. So we reported it. And then we got in our car and we gave it chase. And as we were chasing it, we got to this ridge where we could see the object coming towards the mountain. And then we're only about an hour and a half away from Washington, D.C. And 3 Air Force jets started to close in from 2 different directions. So you had a group of 2 and a group of 1 that were coming at this object. And they were hauling. You could hear they had their afterburners on, and they were giving this thing a chase. And this thing was just floating along quietly. It got over top of the mountain. And as the jets closed in, this was like right out of a movie. As the jets closed in, this object started to go up in altitude, straight up. And then right where the object was, then the object just went and just left. I mean, it was just there, and then it accelerated and it was gone. And the jets closed into where it was and crisscrossed where it was. And you could see the jets circling around trying to figure out where it went. And we could tell they were military aircraft because you could see the afterburner coming out of the jet engine. And so, not sure what that was, but that's the experience that I had that made me go, they do exist. I don't know if they're alien or Earth creations or what they are, but something is there, and it's something of very advanced technology, and it had our Air Force looking for it. That's the story.
You know, I think what I already just, you know, I'm smiling. So I'm just going to throw out my disclaimer, and then actually Redbeard's laughing already too. So I think we should just do disclaimers. I personally have never seen a UFO. I think, you know, again, however you want to look at it, if, you know, I know there's, you know, Drake equation and all these different ways of looking at, is there really life? And I just believe in the glory that is God's cosmos. I mean, do you really think that we're the only thing? I mean, like,
No,
there's billions of galaxies.
Very arrogant.
That's just mathematically,
Yeah.
you know, come on, man. So now what those things are, have we been visited by them? Now that I'm unsure of, unclear of, just as what Valley Reb just said. However, Valley Reb, look, you know, Valley Red. Well, here, before I say, I'm going to let Redbeard chime in. So all I'm basically saying is, I think obviously alien life in some form or fashion must exist. Is it advanced enough to travel through the cosmos? I mean, we don't know what we don't know. So how the hell would I know if that's true or not? You know, like we as humans, as a species, we've been alive, like, and no, like not even an inch in the grander scale of time, right? And history.
Mile long piece of thread with a single knot tied in it. That's us.
Say that again.
A mile long line of thread with a single knot in it. That's us.
Okay, I like your analogy. Yeah. I would actually say, to me though, it's probably like, if you think about the cosmos, I would say like a 10-mile long, you know, or even 100-mile long piece of string, you know, just with a little knot tied in it, you know. Flip. Yeah. Yep. All right, Redbeard. So I'm basically saying, and I'm not coming down, we're going to have some arguments here. Not arguments. We're just going to talk about some stuff, but I'm saying, of course, there has to be alien life in one form or another.
Right.
Redbeard.
Yeah. What do you think? I concur. I think that there's too much out there that's realistically, it just gives way to too much of a probability numerically, mathematically, however you want to evaluate it, to where there's got to be some type of life out there. I don't feel like, I feel like it's kind of ignorant to assume that we're the only things that exist, not only in our own universe and our own galaxy, but also ever at all. I don't see that being the only possibility of life. And when you really evaluate it, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's not explainable. And I'm of the idea that in order to prove that something doesn't exist, you have to have sufficient evidence to support those claims. You have to have evidence that 100% there's no possibility of this existing.
Right.
We don't have
the lack of evidence to prove something is not the evidence that discounts that something.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. That's a fallacy everybody walks into. Well, there's no evidence. I'm like, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And furthermore, that just supports the point that it could exist. And it's like, that's, there's got to be enough evidence to show one way or the other that either outcome is what the possibility is.
And I think that's where I want to bring this back over to Valley Reb. I think, to his point, he's, Mark, you just said it, like, well, I don't know if it was this or this, but it's clearly something else. Yeah. So to Redbeard's point, well, that doesn't that, so even that statement right there, that doesn't in and of it by itself, that doesn't prove or disprove it. It opens up this bigger question. And so on that, I kind of want to come over to you. So like, what do you think? I mean, like, so you saw something that falls into the category of an unidentified flying object. It sounds pretty badass. It would have been an incredible experience to have had. But where do you come in on that then? Is that in your mind, oh, well, that's got to be something, some human government or what?
When I look at the B-2 bomber that's in a triangular shape and it's flying wing, it could have been something like that. It could have been something that was being tested. There could be a stealth technology that was being tested at the time. I don't know. But what I do know is it exceeded anything that I'd ever seen and have ever seen since. I've never seen anything move that quietly, be that big, and accelerate that fast. It's just like, I don't get it. And
just on that point,
ramjet technology, all that, none of it had been invented, but ramjets are extremely loud.
And so anyone watching this, if you want to have fun, I mean, and if you're not into UFOs or, look, none of us are going to come in here and claim to be ufologists or UFO experts. I know enough to get myself in trouble, so I'm just going to leave it at that, right? But if you want to go down this rabbit hole, I mean, seriously, even on YouTube, there's some great channels. I'm just going to throw things out there like the Y Files or Bright Insight, just for example, or gosh, now the other one's just escaping my mind. He does spooky pasta or scary pasta. I can't remember what it's called. So there's some great channels that you can find out there where, people put in a lot of time and effort in their presentations in these discussions. But going back to Valley Reb, the Astra, and again, I've heard it called a couple different things, but it's basically a triangular shape device. And, there's a lot of people claiming that that's actually advanced, like not 5th gen, but we're talking like, 6th or 7th gen technology that we somehow mastered. So turning this back over to Valley Reb, my question there would be is, if you look at the leaps and bounds that we've made in technology, there's a lot of people in this field that would argue, well, matter of fact, I mean, and I'm going to get the colonel's name wrong, but he was part of Roswell. And he's claiming that, further on in his career, a lot of the things such as, monofilament and, and all these different pieces of technology were really, the results of us attempting to reverse engineer or better understand alien, recovered spacecraft.
Yep.
What do you think, Valley Reb? Is that possible that what you saw, even though, let's say it was man-made, let's say it's an advanced platform.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Still not. Where did we get that technology? You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to make this. We've never made these types of leaps of bounds in the history of mankind, and I know you're a student of history, so that's why I wanted to throw that one over to you.
Yeah, so I've been trying to make sense of that ever since, and recently, you start watching how drones move, and this kind of moved like a drone. I mean, it was like straight, and then it just. And their acceleration rate from 0 to 100 is, out of this world. And with some type of whisper technology on those blades, you probably wouldn't have heard them. So, I can kind of scientifically go, okay, there kind of sort of is the precedence for some technology that exists now that could have existed then and they were playing with it. Okay, I can do that. But, the reverse engineering idea, that would be saying that would be actually saying that these things come from another planet. And I don't know. Do they have a prime directive? Like in Star Trek where they're not.
But see, again, we don't know what we don't know. I mean, isn't that possible?
I mean, look, a power line and crash. I mean, are they? I don't know.
So as a kid growing up reading a shit ton of science fiction and still to this day, still really appreciate really good science fiction. I mean, there's in a lot of these books, and I'm just going to go into David Brin. So, if anyone's into science fiction and if you haven't read David Brin, I mean, just go and check out his works, especially the God dang it, not the Forever Ward. That's Haldeman. Oh, I'm trying to think of, there's a name for the series, but Star Tide Rising, but it's all about this, mankind has finally, with our current technology, is finally getting to the edge or just leaving our solar system. And the moment that happens, we realize that there's these four galaxies, and all these advanced races. And we're really nothing more than, an ant who learned how to eventually evolve into making a bicycle, and then it's all about humanity being brought up and people, and it's the Uplift saga. That's what it's called. It's the Uplift Wars. But it's a great series of books. But Mark, the reason I'm bringing that up is to your point. Even if we're starting to do some of these things, or if aliens, if there is alien life and it's here, I mean, where do you think we would fall on the scale of how they would even consider us? We might just be a novelty. Like, hey, like imagine Mark,
and let's go on vacation and go see these primitives,
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say, imagine Redbeard and I sitting around on a Friday night having a couple beers. Well, he doesn't drink, so he'd be the DD, the designated driver for the intergalactic starship. And I'm sitting here smoking my intergalactic hookah, drinking my intergalactic, whatever the whiskey is on Star Trek and crap. And I'm like, hey man, let's go to that backwater planet and check out those primitive, whatevers,
Right.
Yeah.
And then if, what if we were drunk and then, Redbeard drinks for the first time and crashes the spacecraft? Or the point I was also getting at is like, maybe because we're so primitive, we've evolved past technologies or we haven't even reached technologies that more advanced species have already evolved past. So in this Uplift War book saga, a species thinks it's discovering some new or bringing back some old tech, but it's so old, but everybody else knows about it. And once they see it, everybody just brushes, blows off the cobwebs, brushes off the cobwebs. And now everybody knows how to defeat this old, because it's been millions of eons of evolvement. Right. So,
I kind of just try to apply, I like that. I love to entertain ideas like that. But I also see technology that has advanced pretty far. All right, let's talk about magnetic levitation or superconducting electromagnets that they're using right now, that if they spin them fast enough, they levitate. What's preventing them from putting that into some type of craft and experimenting with that? Yeah. And they make no noise. Magnets make no noise.
And, well, I mean, let's just be honest. To your initial point, could this have been, a government, our government, somebody else's? Yeah. Look, the moment some smart guy starts developing some of these things that Valley Reb just talked about, and this has happened, and for anybody out there, I should make a tinfoil hat. It's not a tinfoil hat conspiracy. A guy creates an engine that only runs on water, and then suddenly that patent disappears. And
look at Tesla.
Yeah, well, and then Tesla's an example.
Tesla's a prime example of that.
Yep. Hey, Valley Reb, you're still showing up as present, but we don't see you. Are you there, sir?
Yep.
Oh, now you're back.
Here I am. Yep.
So, Mark, I don't know if you heard what we were saying. Could you hear us well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So do you see the point? It's so you're absolutely right. I mean, these technologies can be created, and then whenever an advanced technology that has potential weapons capability or national defense, interest, it always seems to get pigeonholed or disappeared and things of this nature. So I'm just throwing that out there to, again, if you want to advance that opinion, if that's what you think you saw.
It absolutely could have been something like that. And that's kind of where my brain has gone since I've seen that to where I am today. It's kind of like, well, okay, technology's advanced far enough that, I can see that some of this could have been brought to reality back then, and they could have been working on it ever since. And it's something that's just incredibly quiet, and we are close enough to Andrews Air Force Base that it could have been something from there.
Well, Andrews has a reputation that falls into that whole folklore of things, secret things, stuff taking place. But I mean, yeah, possibly. Hey, and then again, just a quick break for anyone who's just maybe joining or coming in. So again, we're not really sitting here we're not going to do a deep dive on Roswell or Rendlesham Forest or the Phoenix Lights. That's not the purpose. It's really more just to have a little bit of fun and just ask these questions. And maybe some of the questions and the conversation we're having gets you to say, oh, I didn't think about that before. Or you might take issue. Like, and if you do, leave a comment like, hey,
Yeah.
Mark, yeah, you have an awesome beard. You kind of look like Gandalf, but you are totally wrong on whatever the subject is. Leave some comments because this is a really fun subject. Redbeard, I know you had something to chime in on. Sorry.
Yeah. So I've been watching. I've actually been watching a lot of different government testimonies, whether it's the FBI or whoever. And I think that the testimonies that are currently going on, that have been going on for quite some time, that have had various whistleblowers and individuals from the inside of certain programs, have been pretty interesting to me, because there are a couple things that stood out, with several people saying like, hey, yeah, like, no, there are craft that 100% are beyond our comprehension, that we've been working on for decades, and we have been, we have labs.
When you say working on, are you saying that we are working on creating, or are you saying that we've
reverse engineering?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We've recovered it and we're working on. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's clear. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because these are people that, these are individuals that are in the know. Like they either have been working on it, they know people that are working on it, they have a clearance to be in and around these things. And, and kind of to Valley Reb's point, like you're talking about like, magnetism and a lot of these different things. And it's like, but what they're explaining is these are the ability to levitate and the ability to cloak a vehicle, the ability to use these vehicles for clandestine operations. There was an interest, at least at some of these individuals who testified in these hearings, that said like these vehicles had already been in use to basically try and transport people. They found a way to reverse engineer these vehicles in order to transport people very quietly. So what they're indicating, at least what these people are coming forward and saying, is like, no, yeah, we've had this technology since basically the 50s, and they have been putting time, money, resources, and manpower into reverse engineering these things. And we are now to a point to where we're barely there, but we are starting to create craft and figure out this technology, albeit slowly, to use for our own endeavors, to a much stronger degree. So,
all right, before we bring it over to you, Valley Reb, I just one comment on that, Jeremy, and because I'm sure somebody else who's watching this is thinking the same thing. Well, I guess maybe two things come to my mind.
Yep.
Well, one, it proves two things. I mean, if what you are saying is correct, it proves two things. Then that there is some type of alien life or some other type of life or tech, that we don't understand. Because some people argue it's not actually interstellar, but it's interdimensional, right? It's putting that kind of nuance aside, and that's a great rabbit hole to go down if you're 100%. Into this kind of stuff. But that statement right there, that proves the people who've been, the government's been poo-pooing this for forever. Now, governments always want to maintain secrecy. That's not how it's supposed to work in our constitutional republic, but let's set that aside because everything could be construed as national defense. But and then going forward to where we are now, that actually, to me, only seems to prove or make it doubly as heinous, or despicable. It's like you knew it existed. We get it. You don't want to share things because you want to try to reverse engineer them to make stuff that protects us, quote unquote, which actually really just protects the pocketbook of all the, military industrial complex. But you're going to do this. And then you're going to you're going to discredit people, ruin people's lives, ruin people's careers. And then to your point, Jeremy, but now you're going to start trying to leak these things out through these committees and these conversations, and a senator so-and-so or a congressperson so-and-so, we couldn't handle what I just heard. I just kind of call some bullshit on multiple levels because of that type of action. Valley Reb, does that make you feel that way? Or do you think it's more benign, unintentional, or what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of skeptical about the government denying it. Now, all of a sudden, we're coming up on an election year, and we have a president who's weak, and all of a sudden, we knew about this all along. Here's all this stuff. It just seems to me like okay, I've seen them use distraction tactics before. They do this all the time where they throw something out to the masses, to the mob, and they say, here it is. And the mob goes crazy and they love it and they eat it up and they stop paying attention to the important stuff going on in our government. That's, I don't know. I mean, there's enough evidence there to suggest, yes, there is something, but I don't know that it's from another planet or whether it was from another country or what it is. But it never fails that when we're coming up on something important or something important is going on, that they throw out something for the masses to chew on. And we as Americans fall for it. You know, we dive right in because we just love it. Like, the intrigue of it. And I knew it. I knew I was right. You know, it's just like, well, you know, they know that you like this kind of stuff. So of course they're going to feed it to you, and they're going to feed it to you in pieces so that they keep it going long enough to get past the stuff that is really important.
That's what I was going to say. And Redbeard, I know you're going to want to jump in on this too, but I'm probably, if not 100% in concurrence with what Mark just said, you know, Valley Reb, I'm really close. I think there could be shreds of truth. That's the awesome part about this. But I think I think now because of political expediency, you know, because of the current situation, and, you know, you look back in time and that whenever these leaks and things kind of come out, it's usually, it does. I mean, and how else can you look
the same thing when the sub went down for the Titanic?
That's what I'm saying.
That week, 43,000 emails were deleted about Epstein. And, you know, there were tons of things going on and nobody paid attention to that because guess what? The Navy picked up that sub blowing up on Sunday, but Monday they were running out of air, and Tuesday they think they heard a noise, and Wednesday, we found the sub, but they were dead 4 days ago.
Yeah.
and the Navy knew it. You know, and the Navy knew it, so they just kept it going because there were other things going on that they wanted to keep everybody's eye off the ball long enough to get past those things.
Well, to your point, look at whenever. So just in the last, so take it all the way back to, do I want to go to 2022 or do I want to go to, I'm sorry, let me just rephrase that. Do I want to go to 2020 or I want to go to 2016? I'm trying to get my brain around it. Well, I'll take it all the way back to 2016. You started seeing all to what you just said, Valley Reb. Every time there was either a scandal or something else was about to break, we had another commentary about disclosure, or the Pentagon has a special, you know, like there's always been some other little bit of bullshit that seems to come out whenever it seems to be politically expedient to do. So,
and they just feed you enough crumbs to keep that excitement going.
And back to Redbeard is that doesn't prove or disprove alien life. It just proves
it doesn't.
Well, honestly, Mark, Valley Ripper, I think
we have a corrupt government that uses.
I was just going to say, I was going to use the word.
Get them off topic.
Yeah, I was going to use the word evil. You used corrupt. Same freaking thing. All right,
Redbeard. Yeah, no, and it's so here's my take on that, and it's actually, I think, going to be in agreement with you guys, which I don't think that it's necessarily that that there isn't something that they've been working on for decades. I think I would say here's my thing. I would highly encourage people to go and listen to the testimonies. They're open source. They're out there. Like, go listen to the testimonies. Listen to what the people who were there, are involved, whatever, have to say. That being said, it's what I think is interesting is usually if there's something that's going on, it's something that's actually going on, but they're using it, as Valley Reb had said and Market that you agreed to, which was they're using another situation to cover up a different situation, and sometimes the cover-up situation that they're using isn't necessarily less severe. It's just they would rather have your attention go to that than they would about the other thing, because the other thing, while it's equal in severity, might be more damning to them at a professional or personal level. So that's
political level.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think that that's kind of part of it, is they're like, oh, okay, like we're going to admit some stuff because I think most people for the last 50 to 60 years have kind of already assumed that it happened. So we'll trickle feed them this, so we can get rid of, like Epstein stuff or whatever the case might be. And it's like, okay, that I 100% could see that. And unfortunately, our particular government, the U.S. government, has a very bad track record when it comes to doing this type of thing, because they make a big habit of it, whether it's covering up a blunder as it pertains to a conflict or whatever it might be. They're like, oh, hey, like this is really bad, but we don't want you to remember this. We'd rather show you this instead. So.
Hey, Mark, before I bring it over to you, I mean, because you guys have both brought this up, and I think it's worth, if you're willing to tackle this, or if you respond and go in your own direction if you want to. But both of you guys have brought up Epstein now, and you think about the cocaine scandal, Epstein, they're just there's this constant litany of, to both of your point, there's a real issue. There's a real, like, tangible, like, I mean, look, I know there's people who are going to argue that Epstein didn't die at all. I mean, it wasn't he didn't kill himself. It's like the whole thing is fake, and he was, seconded and, or ushered away, and he's like, someplace else. But, you look at all the banking executives and media executives recently who've been busted with kiddie porn. So, then all of a sudden this drops. So it's whatever, there's it's almost like there's so many scandals. Again, Mark, I mean, Redbeard agrees with you and said the same thing, but Mark, you're the one who really started it with, it's bread and games. Doesn't it just seem like it's just more bread and games? So you don't actually see that Mike Tyson is right in front of you and about to punch you in the face.
And I've come to the conclusion that, all right, one, there isn't two parties, there's one. And two is they live by this creed. If I fall, we all fall. So we're going to watch each other's backs. And they live by this, and they present the public with smoke and mirrors to get us off track, off topic, and focused on things that have no bearing on anything that really matters, so that they can continue doing what they do. And that is filling their pockets off of the coffers of the United States taxpayers, and protecting everybody who's in on it, and that is all of them. I mean,
to your point,
they vote for their own pay raises. They gamble in the stock market because they know what's coming. And so it's just endless. The corruption is just endless, and it is at every level there, and they all just watch each other's backs. So if I fall, you fall. So we all stick together.
So to your point, why is Chuck Schumer, of all people, like, does anybody out there really trust anything Chuck Schumer has to say? Chuck Schumer is one of the leading, representatives making this push for quote unquote, well, I don't want to call it transparency. What's the term?
Answer me this. How in the world, all right, Chuck Schumer, I just read, his salary as a congressman is $154,000 a year. Yet he's worth $150 million. And he's been in office a long time.
So bizarre.
No. Well, so we're
insider trading, and I think it's illegal.
Yeah.
You know what? But you raise a great point, and so we're talking. I don't want to get us too far. I'd like this direction we're going, but we're talking UFOs, fact fishing, or false flag. I think this falls into the, it's being used as a false flag to cover up for other things. And to Mark's point, is the corruption. And I like what you said. I've been in a lot of organizations where you think people would lock shields but no, they were way more honorable. It's like, if you messed up, and you got to suffer the consequences because we're men of character. But I think, to your point, Valley Reb, I think once you get into, maybe not at the state level, but once you're at that national level, you're a senator or representative,
there's a big difference between being appointed to a job and elected to a job.
Yeah. But I think once you get to that level, and I'll shut up and you guys can chime in. I think you're absolutely right. Look, how much is AOC worth right now? I mean, you just look at, You know, like that's me, dirt poor. I get elected, and then within a year, I'm worth a couple $1 million, but my salary is only 125 to 150, 160,000 a year.
Like,
you know, come on, man.
We're not stupid.
Well, you know, maybe we are because we keep going along with this stuff.
Okay,
So,
probably it's probably more like the 80-20 rule. 80% are stupid, 20% are going, you guys suck, you know?
all right. Redbeard, you got to chime in on that and let's get it back.
I got to bounce those guys.
Well, hang on. You're bouncing?
Yeah, I only had a half hour to throw.
Okay. All right. Not a problem. Hey, I'm going to give you solo layout. That was a great story of your personal observations. But if you don't mind, I mean, you know, for however long you have left, can you just like, let's get it back over into UFOs and, you know, again, whatever, just you go wherever direction you want to go, Valley Reb.
Back to what I started out with is I believe it's something. I believe it really is an unidentified object because I can't place where it comes from or where it was created or what the intent of it is. But I do think that they do exist. Not sure. I'm not totally sure that we've seen craft crash on our planet, but maybe. I mean, we're not the only ones in the universe. That would be naive to think that we're the only ones that have life on a planet. And I don't know. Let's just see how technology advances and where it takes us. Humans are pretty darn smart when we put our minds to it, and we can create some pretty marvelous things. So
we can also create some very horrible and evil things too.
Yes.
Let's talk about Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, so on that note, as you're bouncing off, I just want to say thanks for joining. Full disclosure, or even a plug, however you want to say it. Yeah. So Valley Reb is on Instagram. Can I give a plug for you, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Thank you.
So Mark is on Instagram as @ValleyReb. Mark is if you can see some of the stuff on the wall behind him there. He's a period piece reenactor, takes incredible freaking photos. Really good, you know. And honestly, you know, I really like just to give you a shout out. I like that one post you did. What was that, about a week, 2 weeks ago, where you had that whole breakdown. Do you know the one I'm talking about? That whole breakdown of the history and how this progressed. I thought it was really cool. You know, and during this period it was this, and this period it's that. So it isn't just.
That was the belt post.
Yep. So I talked over you. Say it again.
That was the belt post I did.
Yep. Yeah, and it's cool. So it's not just pretty pictures, which, you know, again, you know, if you're sitting on the toilet and that's all the time you have to do, pretty pictures are cool. But if you want to take the time and read and learn and stuff, Mark's got a great channel over on Instagram @ValleyReb. Go give him a follow. And I'm not saying that because he's taken some really cool pictures of my gear, because honestly, his pictures piss me off because I'm like, I can't do that. I hate this guy. I can't take pictures like that. I hate this guy.
That's funny.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And thank you for sharing your story with everybody.
Yeah, heck yeah,
Thanks
man.
for having me.
All right, talk to you later. Be good, Mark. See ya.
Yep.
Cheers, bud.
All right, there it is. Now it's just you and I. All right. I really like Mark. I do too. Much fun to sit and have a beer with. But hey, I think the two of you were feeding off of your political energy. I wanted to talk about UFOs. I mean, next thing you know, we're talking about who are these people, and you know.
Well, you know, as much as I hate to say it, you know, it's hard to not be somewhat intertwined with that political realm, because I mean, look at how politicized the whole UFO discussion has gotten. It's really delving into some deep, perhaps dark, cavernous areas of the Department of Defense, their R&D labs, a lot of their stuff. And I think that, you know, I do agree with Valley Reb about the fact that it definitely could be a smoke and mirrors type of thing. But even if that's the case, like I said before, I still don't think that it detracts from the fact that it's still a very important subject to talk about. It's just they figured that it was convenient to use that now because it intrigues people. It genuinely intrigues people, as you said. And I do think it is interesting when you look at some of the accounts. I mean, there's been hundreds of thousands of accounts since at the 40s, the 50s, and so on about different craft. And I do agree with with what Valley Reb said too. Like, we don't know what it is, and the thing of it is if in fact what these people who are coming forward say is true, and they have been reverse engineering, maybe they have a lot more at their disposal, and they're a lot farther along than we think, given the amount of sightings that have been occurring in the last several decades of this stuff. I mean, you're talking people from all over the country, and it's not just isolated areas, all the way from
the world.
Yeah, all over the world. And so it's like, who's to say that it's even just our government that has this? I mean, for all we know, this whole global cabal could actually be in on this, and they, not to get super tinfoily, but the thing of it is like, look, there are people coming forward. There are people stating this under oath, and granted, nowadays that doesn't mean very much, but there has to every lie, there's a truth somewhere. And I want to know what that truth is.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lie is usually designed to cover up a truth or to obfuscate or deflect away from a truth. So at some point, from either a linear or mathematical perspective, there is an element of that truth, and even in a lie. But you know what? I thought you just said that a couple of things you said that were really interesting to me is like, so when we talk about the people. So again, I apologize if there's a really diehard UFO, ologist, somebody who's really big in this. This is maybe boring, or maybe it's fun because you just like hearing other people talk about it too. But the bottom line is, Jeremy, to your point and to your credit, I mean, this has gone through, this has been transcribed by very smart and noteworthy or trustworthy, if you want to, however you want to say trustworthy, like, hey, somebody's in the military, are they trustworthy? Well, they should be. I mean, generally speaking, for whatever reason, I'm going to take a full bird colonel or an officer, an NCO in the military, for that matter, and we're just going to like kind of hold that on a slightly higher pedestal because they're supposed to be there to serve, and they're supposed to have a slightly higher set of principles or morals and values. Doesn't make them better people. I mean, there's tons of people in the military who have even worse morals and values than the average citizen. But there's just something about that position. We're supposed to. We want to trust them. Now, an evil person would use that and turn it around against us. And in the UFO community, there have been some people who were quote unquote whistleblowers. Yeah, and it's turned out that they were, red herrings. They were false flags. Yeah, and so it can definitely happen. So, but I think that even goes to the point that why would you expend the energy to try to discredit something unless that thing? Why are you discrediting something that isn't true? It'll crumble on its own weight, its own weight of argument. But so to your point, I think that's interesting. Airline pilots, military pilots, political figures, people who've got either security clearances or they have something to lose, nothing to gain, but a lot to lose. And they still come forward and discuss this. And I think that is the one thing that always, for me, when I first started delving into this issue, years ago, it kind of, I'm like, I know I don't know if I can trust that person because I don't know them. However, by, Occam's razor or by default, or however you want to say that, this person should, so you always want to temper it that way. But I like how you said that. You want to add to that? Because I got one more place to go with that.
Yeah. So, I don't know if it's an addition or a detraction, but at this juncture, with where we are scientifically, I'm more inclined to believe the science behind UFOs, extraterrestrials, and other unidentified objects than I am about a global medical emergency.
Damn right. Seriously. I'm high-fiving you. I'm high-fiving you. Yeah, well, and and that's a great point too. I meant, and thank you. I don't know if you knew I meant to bring this up, but when I see John Kirby or Chuck Schumer, talking about, or anybody on any of these, committees, talking about this stuff, I have zero. I don't even care. I don't care if they could be telling the truth. I don't care. I don't trust you anymore. You have so lost the faith of the public or populace. And I think that kind of what you just said, and we're, ties into how I feel and think about it. But that feeds into what Valley Reb said about the bread and games, the bread and circuses, right? It's like, we know no one believes this anymore. So we have to find bright, shiny things to, or things to throw at people to somehow placate or otherwise distract them, the rope-a-dope from these other things that are going on. And I also, on my final comment on that before I let you respond, and then I got one other thing to say, but is I don't put it past anybody in governance. There are some people worldwide who are starting to stand out as actual real leaders who actually really care about the human population. Yeah. And if you don't know, again, that's not the focus of this conversation, but they're out there. And if you're following politics, and if you're following like events, like even the Rona and all the bullshit, and that Jeremy just brought up, you'll see who these people are. Australia has a handful of them. Europe, has a handful. Germany, America has a handful. There's some great leaders in some Eastern European countries that are just like, no, no, that's not who we, So it's out there. And, maybe if one of those people had something, I might be a little bit more inclined to squint my eyes and say, okay, there might be a little bit something more here. But when Kirby and Schumer come out and start talking about shit, I'm like, it's not even in one ear out the other. It's like, nope, stay away from my ear. You guys are idiots. I want nothing to do.
Yeah, well, it's kind of sad that we've gotten to that point too, because in the end of the day, kind of going off of what we both kind of commented on there, I think the reason I feel like there's so much more credence as it pertains to the potentiality of the advanced technology and potential, the idea of life beyond here and so many other things, along with the thousands of sightings that people have seen, not only just in our country but all over the world. I'm more inclined to believe that because we've seen denial of these things, but what we haven't seen is like an outright denial of science, like a blatant denial of science. Like, no, you didn't see what you thought you said, but they never said that it wasn't possible. The thing of it is they always tried to masquerade it under this idea of like, oh, Mark, you're drinking a little too much, okay?
Or
like,
that was
you didn't really see that. And it's like, but then it's like when you talk about global medical things, they're like, no, like we're just changing all the parameters of known science and none of this shit exists because we need it to fit our They've never said that about, like, it never concretely said that.
Or only use models that go back 20 years, but we have the scientific data, since man has been, So it's kind of funny.
So you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, and the reason I am, because there was an article, I think it was the end of last week or the beginning of this week. And honestly, this may seem like we're going down weird rabbit holes or off point, but it ties into the ultimate point of like, is it, fact, fiction, or false flag? Yeah. If you have people who are so knowingly and willing to fabricate data, oh, look, it was the hottest day on the planet. No, it wasn't. You only used data from the last, 10 years, and it was all collected at airports where like military jets were taking off. I mean,
well, it's a fucking tarmac too. Anybody that's ever been on a tarmac knows how hot a tarmac gets.
Yeah. And so, and again, and to that point, I mean, again, real science comes out and says, hey, we've actually, this has been like some of the coolest last 70 years in recorded history. It hasn't actually gotten hotter. So, and again, I know there might be somebody who wants to, like, oh, well, climate change is real. I'm like, look, this isn't that conversation. If that's what you believe, that's great. But if you're using data that's based on limited models, limited spans, it's very, being controlled for certain environments or other factors, or it's being conducted at airports where planes are taking off. I don't know what to say. That's like telling, Valley Reb that what he saw with his own two eyes is not, he didn't see that. It's like, oh no, that's bullshit. So it always gets the hackles, then the hairs in the back of my neck. It's always something that, so here, bring that back to UFOs. That type of conversation and that type of, when someone's that adamant and wants to argue and just like start immediately going to, ad hominem and calling you names and, and bloviating and all this, that always makes me really super duper cautious. Like, I'm probably right, because why are you getting so defensive and why are you calling me names, or like, white guys with gray beards are idiots. Okay, here we go. Yeah. By the way, I think you shaved your beard to make me feel better. That's what I think. Your beard
You
is
caught
much
me.
closer to mine in size now. I think you just did it because
You-
you're like, Mark's older. I don't want him feeling so bad because my beard is so,
Yeah, it was definitely a pity shave.
was that what it was? All right, hey, back on UFOs. We're at 50 minutes. I honestly, I literally could sit and talk to you for hours.
Oh yeah.
About let's maybe do a shorter podcast here today.
Yeah.
Hey, the last thing I want to say though is like, and for anyone, again, there are people who are watching this who are way into UFOs and way more about this subject than myself and Jeremy combined. But for those of you who don't know much about this subject, I really do encourage you to go again, start going down some of these rabbit holes, start looking into things. So again, Bright Insight is doing some really cool reporting on Atlantis. So he's on YouTube, Bright Insight. The Y-Files guy, he does some really cool stuff. Some of it he really debunks and some of it he leaves it with, but we don't know. And it's that type of, to me, that's the use of this modern mechanism that we have that I think is really well done and it's entertaining. Now, somebody could say it could be all false flag and it could all be, paid. You're absolutely right. Again, that Air Force guy who, back in the day was, all over the UFO world. Well, it was found out that, he was exactly that. He was a double agent. He was out there spreading, misinformation, disinformation. If you want to use those terms, he was basically trying to bullshit people. But that to me only further proves that, well, then there has to be something, because why do you waste the time and effort and energies and resources to disprove something that's already been, that doesn't exist? That doesn't make any sense. And then, but where I was also going with this thing is, this is so much deeper. I mean, like there's the hollow earth theory, which is worth looking into. There's Byrd in Antarctica. That's worth looking into. That's Admiral Byrd after World War II. So I'm just giving you some other subjects that they'll all kind of eventually go towards this one area, and it gets your brain thinking.
Right.
Looking into Byrd down in Antarctica is one. Look, whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, there's actually some really good channels and some people doing some really interesting stuff. Matter of fact, that what's his name? Not the Bear Grylls guy, the other guy, Survivor Man. He did a really cool, like 7-episode series on Bigfoot. You start going down, and then Skinwalker Ranch. It's incredibly interesting. Where the truth lies, I don't effing know. But I'm just going to throw this out. And I was wondering if you or Mark, and I guess I'm happy that I get to say it, but lizard people, right? So I thought somebody would bring up lizard people. But if you go into ancient Sumerian texts, if you go down that road, now you're entering into all these, like the interdimensionality, what the Sumerians see. And then if you even go into like, ancient Christian, codices and just text and also pictures, you'll see things that, clearly look like a guy in a spaceship or a plane flying. You could make the argument that it's a metaphor and it's about an ascendance to heaven or whatever, but this isn't a person ascending to heaven. This is a person flying, horizontally through the skies, what looks like, what appears to look like he's in a craft, not an angel or the spiritual ascendance, but something different. So there's all kinds of very interesting little, hell, I'm already forgetting, like, and I should have just said this, I'm not joking. And I'm not smart enough on this. I think it was destroyed by the Taliban, but there were some locations. The Taliban destroyed a bunch of stuff when they took over Afghanistan the first time around. And I think one of the areas they destroyed had images of like 8-foot tall, white, red bearded guys, in this.
Are you talking about the Giants of Kandahar?
Well, there's the Giants of Kandahar, but I'm actually talking about the images that were depicted on, in a back room that most people never saw, but it's out there. So there are so many different interesting phenomena, and just even giants. That's another one right there. I mean, like, there's a lot of really interesting stuff. I heard somebody say this the other day. We know more about Mars, the surface of Mars, than we do about our oceans. So just think of what we don't.
Which is kind of startling.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that revelation to me is mildly startling, because that just shows to me that, like, we don't even know we don't know jack shit about our own planet at this point.
Yeah.
So there very well could be creatures out there, in my opinion. And I know this is kind of creeping into a different area, which I hope we actually come back to at some point. But again, if we know that much about Mars, you want to sit there and tell me that we don't know that there's not, we should be able to say with some type of definitiveness that there's some activity out there. Because if you're going to take the amount of time to study a different planet but not study our own planet, how can you say that we know most of what's on the landmass, for instance, or some of what's in the ocean, but yet you can't definitively tell me that there is or is not life on Mars if you've studied it that much? Like,
well, it's not even just studying life. I actually just meant to say we've mapped. Maybe I should have used this term. Maybe I should have phrased it differently. We have mapped more of the surface of Mars than we have of our ocean floors.
And I still feel like that would have given way to, like, you would see something on those maps, and I'm almost convinced that they have seen something.
Well, see, and that's and this is where I'm having fun. We're not really given any answers, but if you're the curious-minded person, what Redbeard said right there, go down that rabbit hole. That is such a fun rabbit hole on YouTube. Start going down the whole NASA images, Mars.
Highly recommend Wendigoon if you've never seen Wendigoon before.
Wendigoon, that's what I was.
Oh, he does.
It's Wendigoon and scary. I think it's Scary or Spooky Pasta. Yeah, there's some. Those are pretty good guys on. They got good channels.
Yeah, yep, yeah. It's such, like I told you before we started this. It's such a broad conversation because we literally we've caught ourselves a few times like, nope, we got to step back. We're gonna go down like 600 other like rabbit holes. But that's what's fun about this is like, and I think that this is one of those conversations that I hope people latch onto, and I want to hear all of your crazy ideas down in the comments, because this
here, one of the key things I want to hear in the comments too is, look, when Redbeard and I started creating this, we had a very kind of, I think personally speaking, we both felt we had a pretty clear-cut mission. It's like, dude, the countries, and there's all kinds of shit going on. We've got to speak out. But our personalities and our normal conversations, like again, cryptids, UFOs, all these, and we're just like,
it's de-stressors, man. You got to de-stress every once in a while.
Well, and it's also, but I think it's like, it's mental gymnastics. I think it's mental mathematics. You go down any one of these rabbit holes we just talked about, and you really go down those rabbit holes with an open mind, and you start applying logic, and like, well, okay, is that mathematically possible? Well, what about this? What about that? Or, do I even know enough of the subject to even weigh in on? And it is absolutely fascinating. It's way more entertaining than watching any, mainstream television program or anything. It's like, hey, I'm bored and I have nothing to do. Oh, really? Yeah. That piece of technology, it'll be 4 a.m. and you're like, I was supposed to go to bed 6 hours ago.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and to kind of add to that, to kind of add to like the whole mapping thing briefly.
And I just got to throw this up before you do the mapping thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even talk about Dulce base. And like, that's just another incredibly fascinating, continue, sir. Well, I don't know where that came from, but I just,
I was going to say it took us right around, it took us up until right around the last decade to figure out that there is literally a sea creature, the giant squid, off the coast of, what was it, Japan, that literally gave scientists the probability that they needed to be like, okay, so all those ship stories from like the 1600s where wood ships were scuttled by these massive,
there'd be monsters there.
It's like, dude, this animal literally could do. We only discovered this like within the last decade, which is startling to me, because it's like,
well, don't forget. I mean, I know this is an easy one. I'm doing a layup here, but the coelacanth, like everybody thought that was extinct. What did they find it? They rediscovered it in the 50s. I mean, like there's so much we don't know. I mean, so that's why I always say that you don't know what you don't know. So have an open mind. And I think that's why, but back to Jeremy's point, I kind of got sidetracked, and I apologize, but leave your comments below. Leave a crazy story here. But you see where I'm going. Tell us if you want to see us do a little bit more of this, but in earnest, like we're just having fun and we're just shooting from the hip. We didn't really have a game plan. We knew we wanted to talk about UFOs. And again, should we have talked like a little bit more about, the government, kind of whitewash and stuff? Or is this again, a false flag? Is this really disclosure?
I think it's a
we
little
didn't
bit
get
of
into any of
everything.
the, we didn't get into any of the names and our thoughts on, is Greer real, or is he like, whatever. We just wanted to have some fun. And one of our friends saw something once, and again, whatever that's the V1 Astra or whatever that nomenclature is. I mean, possibly, I have no idea. I'm not privy to that. Never was. Is it engineered on all of our own, brain housing group, or is it reverse engineered from something that we found and we have no idea what it is, whether it's alien, terrestrial, we don't even know. But here's this thing. Or did somebody find some ancient codice, some ancient text? And, and that's been written about many times. I mean, about batteries and there's suppositions about, nuclear weapon. There's so much stuff we don't know. And hell, I'm just going to leave it on one last one. Cause see, now I'm geeking out and I love this stuff. But I don't watch a lot of Joe Rogan's podcasts, but I love, God, I'm going to screw up their names. When he has Graham Hancock and, the Randall Carlson. Go and watch those episodes and listen to Randall Carlson give you a geological perspective of the Younger Dryas and, and the flood myth and then you get into Gulbekki Tepe. I mean, there is just so much interesting stuff. We don't know what we don't know. UFOs. I don't know if there's life on other planets. I don't know if there's even other planets, again, how did the guys come back from the Apollo missions? And instead of being absolutely elated, I mean, go look at that interview. Dude, they look like they just got the shit kicked out of them. They are so beat down. And you can say, well, maybe they're just tired because that was really physically and mentally taxing. Yeah, but you're back on planet Earth now, our big blue marble, and in front of the cameras with a big, like, you guys are the world's greatest heroes. And they look like somebody just kicked their dog.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. What did they see?
Well,
or did it even happen?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, right? So like that's, maybe that's the other thing too, to where like, maybe that's why they've been keeping it so secret, because they had to put this front out with NASA and I'm tinfoil hatting here. Maybe they never did go. And in the end of the day, maybe this is why they're trying to keep it so quiet, because they're like, dude, we haven't had this technology this entire time, but here's the thing. We now have other craft on our planet that we've been able to reverse engineer to some degree. I just lost you there, Mark.
Oh, but what happened?
I don't know.
Oh, hey, can you still hear me?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I may have had a battery failure. Just stand by one second. Hey, I'm going to mute it while I change the battery so I don't bother anybody. But go ahead and keep you. I know where you're going. Keep going.
Yeah. So I just think that it's kind of interesting that like we have this whole situation where, if there is some credibility to the idea that we never made it to the moon, it's not to say that we haven't put something up. It's not to say that we haven't gone like beyond the atmospheric layers, but maybe this is what it is now. Like they now have the ability to harness this technology that they have. And now perhaps they can kind of divulge some of this because it might take some attention away from what they might tell us later on. Like, this never happened. Like this was entirely staged out in like someplace like Nevada or New Mexico or whatever the case is. I find stuff like this really, really interesting to me. And so I think there's a lot of theories that are going around. I'm not necessarily biased to one or the other. I think there's just too much unknown out there to kind of say yay or nay on most of the stuff. But I do find this particular topic very interesting. And especially when you start looking at a lot of other things as it pertains to geological or archaeological type things. It's wild. So,
hey, Redbeard, I'm trying to punch my way through this wet paper bag, and give me 1 second. I'm just gonna mute. Oh, hang on, I got it. I think I saw what I did wrong. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Hey, so that actually hasn't happened. I mean, I'm going to put that battery to the side. That battery just shit itself right in the middle of your comment there. So I apologize to everybody watching.
But you need one of
hey,
those.
But what it
batteries.
shows you is that we can fix a malfunction pretty damn quickly. That wasn't that bad.
Yep.
You know,
you need one of those new space age
old
batteries.
I gotta hurry up and get over to the camera.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Hey,
no, it's. I was just going to say on one extra note, for those of you that do like the rabbit hole stuff, look up the life and times of Tesla. There, and Mark, you might know where I'm going with this, but supposedly Tesla did a military test for the U.S. And what he was able to do with one of his Tesla coils is he basically obliterated a village down in South America with one of his Tesla coils. And this is something that it's like it is open source information, but I don't know how true it is. But after that particular event, the Department of Defense was like, yeah, we're going to take that because that was kind of freaking cool, even though that this village that had existed the week prior is now off the map, and it destroyed a huge circular area. So
I'm just going to throw this in there, and I think this just goes to prove your point, and then also prove the point of what we're saying. It's like, hey, these are fun rabbit holes to go down. Doesn't make you a weirdo. Although, Jeremy, you and I should make tinfoil hats. I mean, we've got to do this. Yeah. I've been saying it for like, every episode. I got to take the hat, put some tinfoil on it, and have a hat on standby that we can put on. There you go. I'll get I'll get my Mitch helmet over there.
Look, I'm going to get all of the protection.
Yep, there you go. I'm going to take my Mitch helmet. I'm going to get it wrapped up in tinfoil. But what you were just saying, like, Tesla, there's so many, we don't know what the truth is surrounding it. But the one thing that we do know is true. I mean, did that happen? Did he obliterate a village? I don't know. But what we do know is that once he died, the feds moved in and all of his shit disappeared.
Yeah.
That we do know, right?
But
hang on. You'll see where I'm going with this. And, and I know this, some people's going to say, oh, these guys are totally off their rockers. But look at all those California fires that took place, just a few years ago. And I don't know about you. I've never seen a fire perfectly burn a vehicle and not burn the tree right next to it, or burn a house and not burn the tree and not the house. There was just some weird stuff. And then you go into Atlanta, that Atlanta bombing. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yep.
And, in today's day and age, a lot of stuff can be doctored up, CGI'd, but like, here's a security camera. Security camera footage usually isn't of that quality where, if somebody goes in there, starts manipulating things. I mean, it's just to this, it's to that. It's not advanced, because most people aren't getting, the highest level camera for their security camera. That's not normally not what's going on. And yet we see in both of these situations, we have these indicators of some type of aerial penetration or some type of aerial, I don't know what, something that's happened. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Atlanta, it's the guy who parked the RV and then announced there's a bomb. You have, makes me keep thinking of like both a book and a movie where it's like, you have 10 minutes to reach maximum safe distance. It was emanating a warning for everybody to get the hell out of the area. So I don't know, Jeremy. I'm just throwing that out there in the sense of like so I don't think it's, how do I say it? I don't necessarily see, I'm smiling. I don't know how to say this. There's just lots of interesting things that always make me raise my eyebrow. If somebody wants to say that is what makes me a conspiracy theorist, I mean, I guess if that's what you want to call me, I've been called worse. I mean, I'm sure I'll get called even worse than that, somewhere in the future too. Yeah. But I kind of think it's like, no, I kind of have an open mind, and I'm willing to not just jump to a conclusion. I'm going to reach a conclusion based on objective, sound human reasoning. And maybe sometimes that could be a little bit more philosophical or religious in nature than it is, I don't know. But that doesn't make me wrong. I mean, to your point, Jeremy, look at how many things that have been spoken about in the last, 2, 5, 10, 20 years. And yet here we are today. And all of those things have been proven true.
Yeah.
So,
and what I think is awfully telling too. So one more thing, and I don't mean to sidetrack a rabbit hole, but I mean, we're kind of on this a little bit, right?
That was your way of saying, I don't mean to, but I'm going to do it anyway.
So Tesla actually did give us the blueprint to literally have unlimited electrical power for like zero cost, at little to zero cost, in the safest way versus having overhead freaking lines. And the government basically went in, took his stuff, like you said, after he died, and they literally forced him to cease and desist some of his things because they realized, like, holy shit, if this gets out, we're gonna go freaking bankrupt, because people will actually be able to live without paying an arm and a leg.
It's the same thing with perpetual energy or 0 point energy.
And,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. And so what's amazing is there are people in their garage literally building their own perpetual energy sources. And as soon as somebody figures that out, you get the G-men that come up to your door that are like, we're seizing this. You'll never have this. Nobody's ever going to know about this. And, you're not supposed to have this. And if you do this again, well, you're just going to have to take a nice little ride to somewhere. And I think that's awfully telling. If anybody ever had a question, again, like going back to several of our other videos, if you ever wanted to question if the government was truly on your side, why are they going to people's houses, literally telling them you cannot make a miniature like Tesla coil that would literally power your entire house off the grid? Like, there's no reason for that. The government should be incentivizing people to want to do this, but they're not, because it's not in the government's interest. They don't care about your interest. And so I think,
okay. So hang on, I'm going to slow you down. I'm just going to slow you down. Not interrupt you. Well, I guess I'm interrupting, but not. I say, because I have a response to that really short, and then you give your final, and then let's go into closing, because you're only barely dipping into.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Look, it's the same thing. If you want to go down this road, it's the same thing where, like, there's places that are trying to control whether or not you can have a well in your backyard, or you can collect rainwater, or taxing you.
Or a wood stove, for God's sakes.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, there is. So if anyone thinks we're crazy, well, then explain why somebody's trying to say I can't burn firewood. The environment. Really?
Like they tried to in Minnesota, of all places.
Yep, exactly. But then, but kind of also going back to your Tesla, along that same line, there's also, again, if you want to go down rabbit holes, just if you go to one of these video channels that we told you, and I don't know if I'll put the links into all these guys blowing. Maybe I'll try to. I'll take a couple seconds and, Windigoon, Scary Pasta, Bright Insight, the Y Files. I'll see if I can think of one or two more, and maybe I'll just put some links to their channel. And you do you. If you go and enjoy it and like it, and then see what happens. But go down the rabbit hole, because just to what Jeremy was saying, when it comes to, and that's why I threw in, like, wood and growing your own garden or having your own well. I mean, how much of this is being controlled? And when somebody comes up, because you go down this, there's other people who've been looking at using water for, propulsion, and also, and it just seems it can't be coincidence. Like, yet another guy comes up with some great, idea, and then revolutionary that could make free energy. I thought that's what we wanted. Clean energy, free, clean energy. Nope, we don't want that, and I get it. But I also think, and this is my last point, Jeremy, and then I'll let you, and then I got to do a housekeeping.
Yeah.
But, you could sit there and argue, well, like, big companies don't want this to happen. If I was the head of Exxon, for example, I'm not saying Exxon's doing this, so Exxon, don't send all your lawyers at me. I'm just saying it's really short-sighted, because if we say the globe, the Earth, again, it's math. And if I say, hey, the mantle is only 1 mile thick, and then everything in the middle is all oil. And so I could mathematically figure out how much oil that is. And then I could look at our consumption, and then how the Earth regenerates more and more oil, what its regenerative rate is. And I'd be able to tell you when we will be out of oil. It's basic math. And it's probably going to happen. It depends on our consumption rates, There's a lot of oil we haven't even tapped into or found yet. And what I just said is very simplistic. That's not how it works. But I'm just trying to prove a point that if I was a business and I knew that at some point in the near, not whatever future, this commodity that my business is, dependent upon is going to go away, but there's this alternative direction my business could go in, whether it's a new energy or it's a new thing that I could do. Of course I would want to capitalize on that. So so there is a part of me that says, from the greedy, selfish interest of a giant corporation, what are you going to do? Sit on all this technology until there's no more oil and then release it? it's
Right.
too late at that point in time. You're going to be looking at it in a different way. And
Yep.
just like, anything, if you're the one who releases this and gets in front of this power curve, you're going to be the business. Other businesses might, do their little versions, but you're going to be the leading source of it. You're going to be the one that history is always going to remember. Exxon, gave us, water-based vehicles or, 0. See what I'm kind of getting at? So, so there is a little bit of that in there that I think sometimes that is where the conspiracy theories, or the alarmists go a little bit too far.
Yeah. And so like this whole discussion that even though we made a slight departure near the end, I think I would actually like to, in an episode, actually go down the Tesla and other venture rabbit holes, because I think it feeds into that bigger conversation. Not only
thumbs up or thumbs down. Should we do it? I like it.
Yeah, so I really want to know what people think, because I think talking about Tesla and some of these people, and mind you, if you know about if those of you who know about Tesla also understand that Edison stole a bunch of Tesla's ideas. So
Edison was a dick. That guy was
he was.
He was a dick.
And there's no shortage of Edisons and others like that. But the point being is there's also a broader discussion that I briefly touched on, which is, look, these people showed individuals like that had understudies and stuff like that how to do these things, and these were the people that advocated for clean, free energy, and they made it to a point to where it was effortless. And they were told, nope, we can't have this. And on top of that, it breeds that bigger discussion of why, at that point, do we have government officials going to people's homes and basically taking away these Tesla towers and taking away these other inventions that Americans have made? Again, this is a discussion that is going back to one of our older ones. The government, they don't really want you to be independent. So yeah, and so I think there's a broader discussion. I want to have this discussion. Let us know in the bottom in the comments there. To that point, before we get too carried away, we're already almost to an hour 20. Mark, if you want to do some housekeeping, and then we'll close her out for the night.
Yeah, I just got to make one comment. I know you don't drink, but are you smoking something? What do you mean the government does? What? Come on, man. The government always has our best interests at heart. I mean, what are you talking about, dude? What do you mean?
That's why we have the NSA, right?
Well, that's why Chuck Schumer is taking it upon him. That's why Chuck Schumer is taking it upon himself to make sure that we know the truth about UFOs. I have no doubt in my heart of hearts that Chuck Schumer has my interest, in mind when he's saying the American people. Yeah, that's what it is.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hey, all right. I hope everybody's enjoying this. We got to do, Jeremy. I hope everybody comments. I want to do more of these. Yeah. I love this kind of stuff. And then, we just kind of dance around, but again, talking about Tesla and all dude. Yeah.
I'm a huge science nerd at heart. So
yeah. Yeah. All right, here's housekeeping. A couple little pieces of housekeeping. Where was I going to go with this, Jeremy? I almost already forgot because we were going to do this at the beginning. One thing I know I was going to say is that, so really definitely appreciate everybody who's been, watching the podcast and following. And last Tuesday, we did a live stream. Now, we had to do it over on the Centerline System side because I hadn't set up our YouTube for Mission Critical, and I had to make a request and blah, blah, blah. But, the title was Go Bags, Gear, and Getting There, which that applies to my, business customers as well. So we just did it over on Centerline Systems. So if you're watching this video, you can go to Centerline Systems, watch if you're interested. I actually really enjoyed it. It was a fun interactive. We had some, special guests. And just part of the housekeeping is we're going to do part 2 of it next Tuesday at 1900 Central. So what is today? The 20th. Today's Thursday, right? Or today Friday, Jeremy?
Thursday, the 20th.
20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 20. So on the 25th at 1900 Central, Tuesday, unless I got the dates wrong, Tuesday at 1900 Central time. It's a live stream and it's interactive. You leave comments. We've got a setup. It actually worked pretty good for our first time. And if you're interested, you can come on the podcast with a question as we're going through the class itself. We're trying to find the best way to
I'll
use
be
this
right back, Mark.
mechanism. Yeah. To use this mechanism to get you for it to be as close to a real class as we possibly can. Right. And so we can use this technology. You get a chat with us. You know, Spoon is actually on the other side of the camera right now, getting ready to take off. But Spoon was in the back room the other night and he was answering messages and things of this nature. And it was really kind of cool. And so we'll do that part 2 on Tuesday of next week. The class again is gear bags, go bags, gear, and getting there. Kind of our first little step into it. And then the final note, if you're watching this, so charity auction number 3 over on Centerline Systems is over. So we had a winner for that. I want to selfishly give myself a plug to get you, if you haven't gone over to Centerline Systems to see our videos over there, you know, my business side, we've been doing these charity auctions. We just finished our 3rd one, and our dollar amount so far that we've raised for charity is $2,927. That's what we raised, $2,927 for charity. The charities so far have been 23rd Veteran, Folds of Honor, and then Disabled Veterans, Disabled American Veterans, DAV. We're doing another charity, and honestly, I think I'm just going to do one more charity, and that'll be next week. So on Monday, so again, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, on the 24th of July, Monday, the 24th of July at 1400. I start these charities at 2 o'clock, 1400 Central every Monday when we do them. And we're going to have probably our last charity. There's all kinds of cool gear involved in it. We're almost at $3,000 that we've raised for charity. So, yeah. So come on. So here's my final housekeeping thing is like, you know, again, thanks to everybody here on Mission Critical Podcast.
You guys are awesome.
Chiming in and commenting. You guys and gals are awesome. It's really been making it a lot of fun. Can't speak for Jeremy, but for me, it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a great ride.
Yeah, it's been totally. We're just 2 knuckleheads. Yeah, we're just 2 knuckleheads trying to have some fun and do a little podcast and hopefully give something back and ask some questions. We're not saying that we have the answers, but then over on my business side, Centerline Systems, you know, it's kind of neat, you know, and that's because of you guys. You know, I'm not the one bidding on it. I'm making the gear and working with other people, but you guys are bidding on it. And there's been some fun shit talking going over there and everything too. So that's my housekeeping. So we got the part 2 of our first ever live stream class next Tuesday. And then the final charity auction number 4 for Centerline Systems is Monday of next week as well. So that's my housekeeping, Redbeard. Did I forget anything on housekeeping? I kind of feel like I did, but did I nail it there? I'm not sure.
I think you got it.
Yeah, I think it was just going to be the class and the auction.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, no. One last one.
Yep.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say we are going to be doing kind of our wrap-up episode next week. So basically, just so everybody knows, basically what we do with our wrap-up episodes is it's kind of going back, reviewing some of the content we talk about. That's usually within about an hour 15. It's not super long, but it's just kind of reviewing everything we've done, where we've been, and kind of maybe giving some insight on the future. So,
hey, you know what? I just had a stupid idea. What if we started doing the wrap-up videos as live streams as well?
Yeah.
And then we you know, again, and if somebody chimes in, you know, and like, and wants to flesh something out or ask a little bit more of a specific question, but I mean, it's not an huge interactive live stream. We're still just reviewing and we're like, hey, we talked about this, you know, 4 weeks ago and look what's happened since then. But somebody in the comments might chime in and say, hey, what about this, guys? I mean, let's not do it next week, but leave a comment because maybe we do the wrap-up videos and we do those as live streams too for Mission Critical. That is not a bad idea. I don't think.
Yeah.
All right, we're at an hour. Hey, did you say a minute something? I said
an hour. We're reaching an hour 20.
Okay, because I know I'm the one who's always guilty of making that mistake. But in my brain, it's like, hang on, I think Jeremy, I may have rubbed off on Jeremy. Did Jeremy say it was a minute something? But
no,
we're at an hour 20, Jeremy. So that's it for housekeeping.
Right.
And thanks for everybody who's participating in this last,
100%.
Almost 10 episodes. And played along with our games and left comments. And, there's obviously you guys and gals are all great people. So, really thank you. Next week is the wrap up video. And also next week is the part 2 of the training class.
Yep.
And then it's the final charity auction for Centerline System.
Yeah.
So that's it, Jeremy. That's all I got, sir.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, everybody, it's been super fun. We're almost to 20 videos, which is pretty wild, right? 20 episodes of this. Thank you for sticking with us. We greatly appreciate this because, like Mark says, you know, we're a couple knuckleheads just trying to make this thing work. And granted, we have voices for radio or faces for radio, as he always says. We're happy you stick with us and put up with our shenanigans. So
hey, it's faces for radio and voices for silent film.
that's right. Yeah. So definitely not graceful in the vocal category. But that being said, everybody, thank you again for stopping by, checking out the episodes, and we hope you really have a good time with each of these. And on that note, look, the flame of liberty shall not and will not be extinguished so long as there are good people willing to support and defend it. And I believe that's you guys. And we can't do it without you. So on that note, Mark, that's all I have for the exit. And till next time, everybody.
Woo!